We've had descriptions of grays for over 40 years. Large head, 4.5 feet tall, long, skinny, squiggly arms, thin legs, no nose, a slit for a mouth. Who are these grays? But more important, why are they here?
From out of this mist, these gray beings came out with black eyes.
We are in remote British Columbia, near the town of 100 Mile House. We're going to meet with Miriam Delicato to hear about her encounters with grays.
It was October 1988. We were driving in northern British Columbia, and all of a sudden, out of absolutely nowhere, these lights appeared behind the car. It was almost as wide as 2 lanes. We actually thought that they were a big truck or something. The lights started popping on and off. The girl driving started to get really afraid. And then all of a sudden, out of absolutely nowhere, I said to her, "Pull over the car. It's not you they want, it's me."
What possessed you to say that?
I really didn't know at that point.
Miriam's story, it's very interesting, but I find it a little far-fetched because she was in a car with 3 other people. None of them saw what she saw. None of them experienced what she experienced. They just don't remember it, period.
I was just about ready to grab the steering wheel because she didn't want to pull over, and her head tilted to the side, and she just pulled over.
Did she pull over voluntarily?
Something must have been guiding her because all of a sudden she became very quiet. Once the car was in the stop position, nobody in the car was moving at that point. Suspended animation is the way I describe it.
There have been hundreds of stories like Miriam's, and the elements of these stories all match up.
In front, these short grays were walking towards me, and they were about 3.5 feet tall, a little bit larger, bulbous type of heads with the round black eyes. There was no features on them that distinguished one from the other. And then I start hearing a voice in my head. And it was, "Okay, get out of the car, do not be afraid, we will not harm you." My hand started reaching to the handle. I'm thinking, why am I doing this? I got out of the car. They walked towards me, and they took me by the hand.
Miriam's walking to the UFO, and she's actually guided by one of these grays. They actually hold hands. Did this really happen? What would tell me if it did or not are the details. The details would allow me to make some sort of determination. When you touched the gray's hand, did it feel soft and fleshy, or was it a bit more solid?
It was solid. They were really cold, and it wasn't like warmth from, you know, a person or an animal. It was cold.
But wouldn't a normal reaction be to run for your life or pull yourself away from little beings that are dragging you into a ship?
Absolutely, but there was no conversation other than, "Do not be afraid, we will not harm you," which did actually calm me down.
This is very interesting what Miriam is saying about the grays calming her. Maybe they have some way of doing this, perhaps telepathy is involved.
They just simply took me by the hand, led me down the highway. When I looked up, I saw a very large craft, probably about 40 or 50 feet across. And right at the doorway were these 2 tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed aliens.
Nothing like the grays.
Absolutely nothing like them whatsoever. These short grays that had been with me just let go of my hand, and I walked on board the craft with the 2 tall blondes.
What's the relationship of the grays that took you from the car to these tall blondes?
I would say that these grays were their helpers.
When you say grays, it's not just one species of extraterrestrial. There are many, many different species of them. What we heard from Miriam is that this species was obviously totally servile, almost robotic-like.
There are multiple species of aliens visiting the planet Earth. This is completely new to me, and I'm not quite sure what to think of it right now.
We walked on board this craft, and they sat me down on this chair, and in front of me came a screen out of thin air, and then they started showing me all of these different images.
What kinds of images were these?
Images of catastrophes on the planet. Earthquakes, solar flares, war. And I was shown all of these different, what I believe is sort of like timelines and paths that humanity could take. And then I was explained how if we came together as a species, that we would be able to avoid any and all of these events.
I know Bill thinks this is normal. He's been talking to eyewitnesses and abductees for years, but to me, this is pretty far out there.
So what is the purpose of all this? What are they trying to do?
It was explained to me that they are the caretakers of this earth, and that their purpose in being here is to help enlighten us, make us aware of who we are, and to make sure that we do not destroy ourselves or the planet.
Well, this is very interesting what Miriam is telling us about the Greys, showing her pictures of wars and the way we're harming the planet. It sounds to me like they're bringing a benevolent message, that they're trying to help us. It doesn't sound to me like these are aliens that wish us harm.
I believe that some of these Greys can be trusted, and that some of them you absolutely should not.
Are the Greys here to help us or hurt us?
The Greys that I encountered, I believe, are here to help us. But there are several different types of Greys, and I know one in particular has a very dark agenda.